Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Well, it's the beginning of another week. Good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from our news hub at Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okanse. Tonight, unity talks and the search for a possible running mate for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia dominates discussions following the NPP's presidential primary. Stay with us. We have a conversation tonight. And a few persons also sharing their thoughts about how the way forward will be. We'll give you a reflection of the big four constituencies that the NPP, in fact, that the regions that the NPP also would look into going into election 2028. And in Parliament reconvenes tomorrow after the Christmas recess. We'll be looking at the key issues expected to engage the attention of the House. Stay with us. The National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, has intensified their crackdown on Galamsey operations in the eastern region. We have the latest for you. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. So as you are an integral part of it, we have this and more, including the conversation regarding especially matters on the way forward for the new Patriotic Party. You are an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get the conversation going. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
Over 173 female students of Tolon Senior High School have been displaced by a Monday morning fire incident. 10 of the girls who were shocked by the incident were rushed to the Tolon Hospital for medical attention. Students say they are traumatized by the incident. Northern Regional Minister Ali Adolf Mbodiba, who visited the school, assured of government support. Government will soon decentralize the recruitment, posting and sanctioning of teachers, transferring these responsibilities from the central government to district assemblies. The Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, announced this at the 14th Congregation of St. John Bosco College of Education, noting that the move will improve the rapid deployment of teachers, especially to underserved and hard-to-reach areas.
Government is processing through the Ministry of Finance the release of 41 million Ghana cedis for your book and research allowance for 2023-2024. We will pay you, and we'll pay you within the next 1 week. I'm sure it's with controller. So I expect that by 9th of February, normal academic work should be restored in all colleges of education throughout Ghana.
The High Court has ordered the Chief Executive Officer of the defunct Men's Gold Company Limited, Nanapia Mensah, popularly known as NAM1, to file his witness statement after he attempted to give oral evidence. Earlier, NAM1 told the court that he had acquired the necessary licenses to operate his gold dealership business. He has since opened his defense after the Supreme Court dismissed his application, seeking to quash the High Court's decision that he has a case to answer. Spokesperson for the aggrieved Men's Gold customers, Fred Forson, prayed for a return to the daily trial of the case.
So far, there's no bar at the Supreme Court. The last time we went to court and withdrew the case. And so we believe that now the courts, the high court here can go ahead with the causes and issue. We only hope that we shall receive or return to the basic trials. At the end of the day, it's our money that we want. And if we're able to settle us, I'm sure the state will take cognizance of that sort of gesture and they will know how to go up around this case. So it's important that he tries as much as possible to begin the process of settling the customs. That is more important.
Cocoa farmers in Ghana have given government a 2-week ultimatum to pay their outstanding debt or face their wrath. The farmers, who are facing several financial distress due to significant payment delays for beans supplied during the 2025-2026 season, say they will be compelled to sell to other cocoa purchasing markets. Stevenson Anane Boateng is the president of the Ghana National Cocoa Farmers Association, NACOFA.
Cocoa Board did not receive the money he collects from these people every year, that syndicated loan. That is why this thing had become a problem. And if Cocoa Board and the government cannot stand to buy cocoa any longer, is to let we cocoa farmers aware, because government doesn't have cocoa farm in the country. We cocoa farmers own cocoa farm.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. We're also on 3 News on YouTube. As always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso Insecticide Spray and Qualcomm Tum Tum Preco. Coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, all eyes on the unity talks of the NPP after the presidential primary over the weekend. How is the path to the unified front of the new patriotic party going to be ahead of election 2028? It is a crucial ingredient that the party itself has identified as one that they would need going into election 2028. It's a conversation that we're going to be heavy on this evening, and then also the views as have been expressed by some of the persons closely associated with the minority in Parliament, specific to the minority leader, Alexander Aponyamakin. We'll hear from him because there's been a lot of talk about him, and right after the results started trickling in on Saturday, that whole narrative about Kennedy Oyenejiapong winning massively and decisively in the Afutu constituency, and you know, how it reflects on Alexander Aponyamakin. He has been consistently responding to that, and he is saying that the NPP caucus in Parliament is fully committed to the party's newly elected flag bearer, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, and they will champion his vision on the floor of the House. Alexander Aponyamakin made this known that he met Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia earlier today at his residence. Take a look.
I'm with the flag bearer of our party, and our commitment as a caucus is to him. It is Parliament that is going to carry his vision and advocate same on the House floor. As a leader of the caucus, my loyalty to the party's cause and our flag bearer is unsoiled, and that is the discussion we've had. He called for unity, and that is what we are going to rally behind him and deliver 2028. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
That is it.
Mr. Minority.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes.
You know, and this is coming at a time when this narrative about why Kennedy Oyenejiapong won massively in his constituency and he being the minority leader, we're going to get into a conversation whether it is mandatory, really, that the flag bearer elect Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia should have won in the minority leader's constituency. if that's not the case, why was this whole narrative about who he supported and why Kennedy Agyapong won in his constituency really a big deal? And if there's any currency that has to be put on that thinking of a possible replacement of Alexander Afenyomarkin as minority leader, well, the national organizer of the party, Henry Nana Boakye, has been talking. He says that the NPP is comfortable with him as a minority leader. But earlier, he had also, that's Alexander Afenyomarkin, talked about his relationship with Kennedy Agyapong during the Efutu stakeholders engagement. So there had to be an engagement in the Efutu constituency for him to address this matter of his relationship with Kennedy Agyapong and how it possibly reflected on the votes on Saturday. Take a look.
Our other worthy aspirants who carried the banner of competition with honor and grace. We salute Honorable Kennedy Agyapong for his passion, his firm belief in accountability, and his unshakable commitment to the ordinary Ghanaian. For me personally, this is a friend, true and trusted, with whom I share a code. I believe that in this life, in all situations, loyalty to friendship is very essential. And man must not forget his friend, because there is everything wrong with a friend. My relationship with him remain unsoiled till time shall be no more. But I equally recognize, and he himself recognizes, that our party first. I am therefore happy to inform you as constituents that yesterday he graciously, without any prompting, talked to the flag bearer, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. It was a short chat and very hearty. He gave his commitment to support Dr. Bawumia to win the 2028 election. I have no doubt on my mind, with such unequivocal commitment he made, which he followed it up to the party headquarters, we would work hand in hand as stakeholders to make Victory 2028 possible. Let me also salute Honorable Dr. Brian Achampong, whose leadership in government has reflected strength, discipline, and effective public service. Dr. Brian Achampong and I struck a good accord way back in 2003. I remember back in the days, Brian would come with his exes and I with my Chrysler on the UEW campus, talking to the TESPON students and preaching NPP.
Well, so that's Alexander Afenyomarkin there, and clearly responding publicly to that relationship issue and his friendship with Kennedy Agyapong. He hasn't shied away from that. He's been consistent about it, and also how he stayed silent throughout the period, even after the election in the Futu constituency. And he has had to say this publicly because of what I referred to earlier about the narrative of what happened in the Futu constituency on Saturday. And this is it. I'm going to put it on the screen. That massive, decisive victory of Kennedy Agyapong in the Futu constituency. Look at that. 644 as against Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia 76, Brian Achampong 32. Dr. Yaosei Jochum had a 0 there, Kwabena Agyapong 2. Now, if you compare this to what happened in 2023, this is the 2026, what happened in 2026, Saturday, the 31st of January. In 2023, the presidential primaries in the Futu constituency, Kennedy Agyapong polled some 455 of the votes against Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, 246. So if you see that, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has lost over 150 of the votes in 2023 as compared to 2026, right? And then Kennedy Agyapong gained almost the same figure. So we see that transfer of votes that Kennedy Japan gained in their Futu constituency. And that is what clearly fed into that conversation, which was rife after Saturday, as to why Kennedy Japan won in a Futu. And this is not a constituency that you would describe as an ordinary one. This is the minority leaders constituency. Well, so Alexander Afenyomarkin had to address this. But if you look at the bigger picture of what happened in the central region, this is what happened in the central region. And bear in mind, this is the home region of Kennedy Japan as well. And not just their Futu constituency. And Kennedy Japan won that constituency, but not with so much of a big margin. Because if you look at the consolidated figures, 8,137 as against Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's 6,242. Just a little over 1,800 thereabout. You look at Brian Acheampong having a showing in there as well. So there was, in this case, a very strong third force in the name of Dr. Brian Acheampong, who clearly struck a very, very interesting balance in the two. And you see Dr. Brian Acheampong's strength and his mettle reflected in the number of the regions we're going to look at right now. Because if you look at the New Patriotic Party's fortunes in every election, that's the general elections, the central region, as I've just showed you, the Greater Accra region, the Ashanti region, and the Eastern region. These are the big four constituencies that the NPP, if you see them dominating in an election, you know where they're heading to. That's victory. And this is it. If you look at the Eastern region as well, there's a home region of Dr. Brian Acheampong. So you would actually understand why there was that great showing of him. In fact, he came in second to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. I'm going to put it on the screen right now. Kennedy Japan, 3,867. Brian Acheampong, 5,918. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's massive showing there, 10,481. 87, beg your pardon. And then you see, apart from the Eastern region, we go to the Greater Accra region, one of the big four. This region, big decider in general elections. You see Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia giving a home stretch to Kennedy Japan, over 8,000 difference there, 11,333 as again 19,820. Dr. Brian Acheampong came in there with some 4,914. The others, not the negligible impact they had in the Greater Accra region. Look at the Western region as well. And I brought this in as well because at some point it had that swing status until 2024. We saw that it lost it. Look at what happened. 7,906 for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as against Kennedy Japan, 2,926. And Dr. Brian Acheampong in there as well. He was always in the thousands in these crucial regions for the New Patriotic Party. And then you have the Ashanti region. That's the World Bank of the New Patriotic Party. Look at that. 19,700 for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And we see Dr. Brian Acheampong in the mix there as well again. 4,642. Just slicing a half of what Kennedy Japan got, 8,603. So you see him clearly showing a very, very appreciable impact. That's Dr. Brian Acheampong in all of this. And then, to top it all up, he won the Volta region. And that's what we're going to be finding out, whether this came as a surprise to a number of the political watchers going into this election. But Professor Samuel Edudjemfi is joining us right now. He's a senior lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kenya University, and then also a political historian connecting with us on Zoom. Appreciate you, Professor Edudjemfi. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And we referenced Alexander Afenyomarkin and what happened in the Futu constituency. He has openly declared his friendship, explained the kind of relationship he has with Kennedy Japan. But would you describe as premature any talks of possibly changing him as minority leader because of what happened in the Futu constituency, that Kennedy Japan won massively and decisively over and above Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, flag bearer elect?
I think it is quite problematic if you look from the lens of free, fair competitive contest between. What about the areas that Dr. Bawumia won? Should those ministers, or better still, those MPs who supported Dr. Bawumia and supported the block voting system, which worked massively for Dr. Bawumia, should they be disregarded? Should they be disrespected? Should they be dishonored because they threw their support behind Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and pushed an agenda for block voting, which happened in the northern and upper regions and several areas across the country where it is quite obvious that the gentleman's constituency, they could not harvest their produce as expected based on the scheme they went into the election day with. But it is like that. You win some, you lose some. They should be content with what they have. They should not waste their time creating more acrimony and confusion within their party, which is already suffering the crisis of, disunity. We saw Paul Awintani Avaku and Kwabena J-Dapo removed. If they attempt to remove some key members within the party, key actors who are playing key role to support the party, it will not be any news to me because it has happened in the past. It is their stock in trade. It is something which has happened before. And I said the chief beneficiaries were Mr. Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, His Excellencies, respectfully.
I see that those already who are referencing the reforms that led to the decision to have this flag bearership election held first before any other election, because now we're seeing the talk of other leaders at the various stages in the party wanting to align with the vision and aspirations of the flag bearer. The flag bearer obviously would want to have a team that aligns with him and he can work with. Is it a consequence of these reforms that we've seen in the NPP?
You will agree with me that the top-down approach, supporters or the proponents of the top-down approach wanted this outcome. And this outcome is to ensure that everyone is whipped into a certain alignment. So if you are seen to be an individual who will not, in the terms of those bottom-down approach persons, then they would want to do you in. The idea of building a political party should be based on a kind of universal adult suffrage. It should be based on freedom for individuals to cast their ballot, not under any form of duress. They should not be under any form of undue influence and all that. There is no doubt that the whole system and machinery at both ends, it was influenced. And on the basis of that, superior influences would direct the course of the elections. What we have seen is not going to inure to the betterment of the NPP. Why do I say that? Because they still feel that they have to micromanage the party for those at the bottom who have paid their dues to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to also retain their position. They are going to harvest a similar results as it occurred in 2024 because they are setting themselves up for disgrace or shame in the foreseeable future. I think they should rethink their posture and begin to rethink how they move toward the future. The course for the future should be unity and not disharmony and try to attack Afenyo Market because his persona and charisma did not allow them to do the block voting or voting en masse.
I see, but then you talk about the unity, which is crucial as well, and that's one that has dominated the aftermath of this presidential primary. All four of them, the losing candidates, pledged their support for the flag bearer elect. How much work has to go into the quest for unity for the New Patriotic Party going into election 2028? From where you sit?
I think Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia need not pretend that he's seeking for unity, whereas his followership around this time are doing what they are doing and playing the kind of games they are playing around the party. If he really wants a party that to be formidable and win election, he needs unity at all costs. it must come by embracing all manner of persons. Party of Saint, which is harmonious, that allows for the MPP's tapestry to be well woven and allow its beauty to be showcased in 2028. As it stands, it is a caricature of its former self. No matter what we have seen in the recent past in terms of having a successful primaries, it is not a success. Proper figures in 2028 must be done by swallowing, his pride, that of his followership swallowing their pride, and understand that what they received came to them through block voting. And the 200,000 population of electoral college cannot determine who becomes the president in Ghana.
Okay.
The very much MPP must see that they have turned a new leaf.
Okay. Professor Dujemfi, thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And I've also been joined by Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. He is a Democracy and Development Fellow at the Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Thank you so much for joining us, Osai-Kwapong. First of all, considering the acrimonious nature of the campaign that we saw ahead of Saturday, and then now the party, I'm talking about the MPP, has to forge ahead and be able to close its rounds effectively going into election 2028. How much work has to go into that process of getting the rank and file, the factions together to work towards a common goal?
Yeah, thank you very much. You're right in recognizing that the primary was quite fierce, which means that I agree with you, a lot of work would definitely go in trying to build unity and bringing everybody back together, giving the different people who supported the different candidates. One of the things that I believe is going to be helpful, which is a good first step that has already occurred, is the open acceptance of the results by those who didn't win and their public support for Dr. Bawumia and the party. That, for me, is a critical first step, which would go a long way in ensuring that that unity that is needed between now and 2028 would happen. The additional work then comes in bringing the supporters along and ensuring that whatever restructuring, reorganization that the party is going to embark on also goes smoothly. But all of that, I think, would contribute to ensuring that the party is able to move beyond the difficulties of the primary, the intense rivalry, and ensuring that everybody is now back under the unity umbrella of the party.
And I see that this party unity obviously has to be led by this man, the flag bearer-elect Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. What should be his posturing and that of his team if this unity is going to be achieved?
I believe he has already shown signs of that, but I believe the winner must be gracious in victory, recognizing that at this point, the party's interest is much bigger than any other interest that may permeate within the party, bigger than anybody's political ambitions. And I believe that from now on, his posture, his tone, his rhetoric must generally be one that reflects reconciliation, embracing of everyone, and ensuring that he's constantly engaging everybody, again, driven by the fact that it's one party and one people, and the party's interest trumps any other factional interest that we may, different people may have. And I think his supporters must also reflect that same attitude of, magnanimity, being gracious in victory, and having the kind of posture that says, look, we recognize that you may not have supported our preferred candidate, but the primary is over and we must all work in the interest of the party.
Right, but the others, I'm talking about the other 4 losing candidates, they've all pledged their their support for the unity of the party. But if history is anything to go by, we do know that the verbal commitments will certainly not be enough to guarantee the unity that the party needs going into election 2028, is it not?
Yes, those verbal commitments is not enough to guarantee unity. They must actively, over the next couple of years, even over the next 6 months, must actively demonstrate that they're truly committed to unity. And as time goes on, through their actions, through their inactions, through their rhetoric, how they engage with Dr. Bawumia and his team, how they engage with the party executives, all of those things will be telling signs of how truly committed they are to the party's unity. For me, though, I would give them the benefit of the doubt and say that I take them at their word when they say they are committed to the party's unity and that they have pledged their support to Dr. Bawumia.
And I do thank you so much. Dr. John Osai-Kwapong is a senior fellow, Democracy and Development, Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Thank you for joining us. Let's stay a bit further on this. And Dr. Jonathan Asantiocho is connecting with us as well. He's a senior lecturer, University of Cape Coast. Doc, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred.
Perfect. Now, great. Sit back a bit for me. Now, I was referencing Dr. Brian Acheampong, but just a quick bite from you on the path to unity that the NPP is on now. How much work has to go into this? What should be the utterance and the posturing of the man who has to lead this entire process and the team especially as well?
Well, the point is that there is no need for a display of showmanship. There's no need for a display of the fact that one person has won elections and everybody else should go wherever they should go. If you look at the concession speeches that we saw, obviously, or we heard, obviously, then it means that they are all ready to come on board. But when you listen to personalities like Dr. Fee, as far as Dr. Bawumia is concerned, well, then it means that Dr. Bawumia must take absolute control over the party. That is not democracy. There is the need for, the acceptance and tolerance of divergent views. That is the only way to go. Because in a situation where you believe that you have won the presidential primary, therefore everything else must fall in line, that is the beginning of the disunity that will, create a problem for them come the 2028 elections.
I see.
And so I'm of the view that what the flag bearer has suggested, going around, as it were, because they are of the view that 2 million of, the electorate who were supposed to have voted for them did not vote at all. So if you really believe that this 2 million belongs to you, then obviously you want to approach them with open arms, with the olive branch to ensure that all of them come on board without creating any form of disunity. Because people have their own vested interests. And it's because they are going to contest for various positions. I want everybody else to believe that, well, they supported Dr. Bawumia and that Dr. Bawumia is in himself indebted to them and they want to compel him to do, their bidding. That is probably the beginning, of disunity and so on and so forth. And that in itself will not augur well for unity and create a situation where it will be formidable to tackle the NDC come 2028.
And on that bit, and I earlier referenced how Dr. Brian Acheampong gave us a good showing to the surprise of many. Looking at the numbers that he polled, and always in the thousands, in all the regions, the top 4 regions that we've seen for the New Patriotic Party in every election where they're able to win at the general elections level. He came in right and even beyond what we all thought. And in fact, if you look at 2023 and what happened and compared to 2026 between Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and Kennedy Ohinyehun-Acheampong, you can see the impact of the third force, the effective third force that we had in this primaries over the weekend. Because look, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in 2023 polled 118,210. That was when the party was in power. It was an incumbent government, thought to be the establishment candidate. And this is it. As against 2026, this same presidential primaries of the MPP, he polled 110,643. There's been a reduction in the total number of votes there, a little over 8,000. Kennedy Ohiagyapong also saw a drop in there, 71,991 in 2023, down to 46,554. Then you see the impact of the third force in the Dr. Brian Acheampong coming in strongly, is it not?
Yeah, certainly. I think that the man has already made a serious mark. And I think that going forward, he's demonstrated that he cannot be a pushover. In actual fact, whenever they are taking decisions of importance within the party, he ought to be consulted. And then, of course, his views, will have to be forcefully articulated. In actual fact, if you combine the two, you are looking about over 41% that will oppose the views of Dr. Bawumia. And that in itself, does not really augur well for Dr. Bawumia and his following. And so Dr. Brian Acheampong has made his mark. And I think that going forward, probably he may have to position himself strategically in terms of the political landscape to decide whether, if it becomes necessary for him to partner Dr. Bawumia, when it is possible that they are going to lose the elections, for example. If they lose, what happens, to him? Is he going to 2032 in terms of their primaries, or you still, partner Dr. Bawumia? I think that this and many other things, should be agitating the minds of his followers to ensure that they do not miscalculate. Because if you look at his age and what he's been able to do in terms of his resourcefulness, in terms of his networking, I have been very much impressed about the kinds of things that he's been able to do. But, we also have to bear in mind that little did we know that you'll be able to win, as it were, Volta region. Because if you look at Global Info Analytics data, Volta region was supposed to have been won by Mr. Kennedy Acheampong. It just happened that it was only Central region that he won. That apart, Greater Accra, according to the Global Info Analytics data, it was supposed to be close. It did not happen that way. I mean, the difference is quite clear, as well as the Ashanti region. So I think that Dr. Brian Acheampong changed the architecture of what the voting pattern ought to be, and is now a force to reckon with as far as internal elections of the MPP, are concerned.
See, I do thank you so much. Appreciate you for connecting with us here on Ghana Tonight. Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. We're going to be looking at aspects of what happened on Saturday in the coming days as well. So stay with us here on Ghana Tonight, taking into consideration so even the turnout of the delegates, 93% of what we saw in there. But coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, stay with issues of governance and Christmas break over. That's for parliamentarians watching us right now. Parliament reconvenes, resumes tomorrow after the Christmas break. There's a lot that they're expected to, as it were, work on. And from tomorrow, February 3, they're expected to deliberate on key national issues aimed at strengthening accountability and enhancing oversight across sectors. A key highlight of the session, which will include the return of Pandai MP Matthew Nyendam, considering the 24-hour economy and the legal education reforms bill and so many others as well as the President's State of the Nation address. That's one crucial activity that is expected when Parliament resumes, the State of the Nation address presentation by the President. We'll get a bit more into that when Christian Yale, our Chief Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent, is going to be joining us as we go on. We'll have a conversation on it. But earlier today, there was an update on the activities of Let's connect with Christian Yale right now. Christian, now we've been talking about what to expect going into tomorrow and as Parliament reconvenes. I've just touched on briefly a few of them, but give us a feel of how the coming days will look like.
Yes, Alfred. So right from tomorrow, early in the morning, we would have a media engagement with both leaders of the House, talking about the Majority Leader, Mahama Yariga, as well as the Minority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin. And every sitting before official work begins, the leadership engages the press corps to give key information concerning what is expected in the sitting. And so that is the first thing. Then later in the afternoon, at exactly 12 o'clock noon, we would have the chamber or the plenary seat where you would have official welcome addresses from the speaker as well as the two leaders. Now, going into the rest of the weeks or the sitting itself, you would realize that there are a lot of peculiar issues. Now, let's talk about the return of Matthew Yendam, which is one key issue, because then it adds to the conversation about numbers. You know that the game in Parliament is also about numbers. Right now, as it stands, you have the minority having a total of 86 or 87 members. And you have Matthew Yendam, earlier removed, bringing their numbers to 86. And so now, once he returns, it sends the minority back to 87. Now, on the majority side as well, they are now having, out of the 189 numbers that they have, they now have 188 due to the death of the Ayawaso East MP. And so that crucial by-election that is expected in Ayawaso East is also a big one to look forward to as Parliament sits from tomorrow. There again, because each of these two sides, whether majority or minority, would want to seek to win the Ayawaso East to add that number to their caucus. Now, apart from this, Alfred, there are other issues like the 24-hour economy bill, which was laid in the last sitting. Now, there is also the legal education reforms bill, which is another key one that many people look forward to. All of these bills are expected to be passed, but one of another particular interest, is the anti-LGBTQ bill, which the minority over the period, and even after we had this whole brouhaha about the NACA teacher manual, it is expected that it would possibly be relayed, also because the speaker in the last sitting had indicated that he is ensuring that all the necessary adjustments are made. So that is another issue. That is another big one that you want to look forward to. These are some of the things that are expected as Parliament is expected to. But also, after there is that one about the legislative instrument that is about the mineral royalties. You would recall that the acting environment minister, who is also the lands and natural resources minister, Emmanuel Amako-Fibua, laid a new LI in Parliament. Now, in that LI, there is what we call the sliding scale regime, so that based on what profit companies make, government would earn the corresponding royalties from lithium. Now, it is not even about lithium alone, but also about gold and other minerals. Now, that LI would resume count towards the 21-day or 21 certain day maturity, and then it will then yield into the ratification of the mining leases. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, again, he was referred to the Privileges Committee over the ECOWAS delegation brouhaha. That is also expected that at least we'll see him, referred or called before the Privileges Committee, which is chaired by the first Deputy Speaker, Alfred. Perfect. Good stuff there. And Chris, we can trust you for a great job in the coming days. So we're going to stay with you and as you give us more updates as Parliament reconvenes or resumes tomorrow. Thank you. All the best ahead of tomorrow. Thank you, Alfred. Great. Christian Yale is our parliamentary affairs correspondent there. This is Ghana Tonight. We're back shortly after this quick break because the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, has stepped up its crackdown efforts focusing on operations along waterways in the eastern region. We'll tell you the latest.
after this quick break. Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. The National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, that's what we call NIMOS, has stepped up its crackdown efforts, focusing on operations along waterways in the eastern region. I'm going to show you some videos right now because the team over the weekend discovered an illegal mining site at Mampong, Sankobiase of Etiwa West District in the eastern region, where illegal mining activities were carried out in the Esu Koko and Subi Teyam streets. Now, the illegal mining operations at the site, we understand, according to what we got from NIMOS, these illegal miners absconded upon sighting the vehicle of the task force approaching their mining site. The task force later advanced to another illegal mining site along the road that's Nkrakan Abomoso. There were also no mining activities ongoing since the illegal miners had fled the scene to escape arrest after news about the presence of NIMOS also went viral. And this is what some society organizations have been raising questions about. And so we're going to have this conversation in two parts. Pakwesi Shandov is a media relations officer for the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, where NIMOS has direct operational, or they have direct operational oversight over the activities of NIMOS. And he's joining us on Zoom right now. Pakwesi, good evening. Hello, Pakwesi Shandov, good evening.
Yes, Alfred, I can hear you. Good evening.
Perfect. Now, some civil society organizations have raised concern about a number of the instances where before NIMOS gets to these illegal mining sites, the illegal miners would have got wind of their presence, or somebody would have tipped them off and they flee even before the officers get there. Has that gotten to the operational review of NIMOS and what they are doing to, as it were, tackle it so as to be able to arrest these people on site and at least serve as a deterrent to the others?
Absolutely. Indeed, that constitutes the principal challenge of NIMOS now. The fact that anytime the task force embarks on an operation, those who ordinarily are supposed to be arrested are able to flee even before the appearance of the task force. Now, that has been happening over a particular period. And if you analyze it properly, to be very objective and honest, it then appears as though the operations of NIMOS are not yielding results because the actual people who have to be arrested at the end of the day are not grabbed. And so the question is that then what becomes the essence of the operations in the very first place? So indeed, it is an issue that has been thoroughly reviewed. But the challenge that we identified, or the reason for that trend, is the fact that a lot of the time, the local people, I do not want to call them conspirators, but for the want of a better word, we have realized that most of the time, the locals in the respective mining communities where Galamsey is prominent have become friends of a sort to the illegal miners. Let me just, in just 30 seconds, attempt to paint a picture. So think of any forest where, of course, NIMOS has wind of illegal mining and illegal mining activity. By the time the NIMOS task force gets in there, it appears that the locals normally, of course, will see that, yes, they are quote-unquote strangers or if you like, soldiers coming into the community. They sound the alarm way before the task force gets there. Indeed, sometimes even those who are politically connected within these enclaves are able to get wind of the arrival of men in uniform in a particular community, and then they blow the alarm. So basically, we are recording these turnouts where an operation is carried out and nobody's arrested because the Galamseyers have fled because of huge political interference and corroboration from the local folks, which has become a problem. But we are mapping up intelligence to deal decisively with that matter. But I have to admit that it's a big problem that is making most of the NIMOS operations appear moot and almost irrelevant.
I see, but that's where the issue is as well, that if it has influenced your operational review without giving out so much information, what are you going to do about this?
Yes, so it is the political complicity. So what the minister has said on that particular matter, and I'm sure I have the clearance to put it across, is that we want to decentralize the fight to the local levels. When I say decentralize the fight to the local levels, what we mean is that at this point, we want to start holding those at the local levels to account. Because, for example, look, if you're a DCE and because of maybe security clearance, you are informed or you have knowledge that NIMOS is coming into an enclave, there should be no way that information should go to any other quarters. If you are an MC or maybe you're an assemblyman, whatever you are in any local enclave, so long as your position allows you to come by certain security briefings and information, the expectation is that you guide it jealously in the interest of the state. But it is appearing that now they sort of, as it were, sell the information. So what the minister has indicated is going to do is that from now till the end of the first quarter, there's going to be a massive, thorough investigation across the respective localities, because that is where the problem is coming from. Indeed, I have to say that the operations of NIMOS are intelligence-led, and then we keep everything under wraps. But of course, if you are going into a particular enclave, maybe you may want to inform maybe the DCE or a couple of people who you believe are relevant. But if the information is now being, circulated and you are not able to find the illegal miners, then clearly there is a loophole somewhere. So the cracking of the whip is going to go to the local levels within this quarter, and there's a whole map-out plan that the minister has considered in that regard.
And so you're seeing this weakness or the compromise of intelligence information that leads to these miners fleeing the illegal mining site before NIMOS gets there, possibly coming from the local authorities, DCEs and assembly members in the area. That's what is happening. The DCEs are complicit.
Absolutely. It's not possibly. That is the most logical extraction, because even me, as the one who speaks for NIMOS, some of the operations, or maybe a good number of them, I don't even know the specific locations. Why? Because, like I said, they are closely guarded. But the people who get to know, if now the miners also come in the knowledge of that information, clearly, who else is serving the information? And we have done some investigations on this, and we have realized that some of the local authorities are knee-deep and extremely complicit. So I'm sure in the coming days, maybe there would even be some naming and shaming, because all of these reports have been brought to the attention of the sector minister, Ama Kofi Boah, who is not excited about it. So action is going to be taken very soon, because truly it is affecting the operations of NIMOS very severely.
And in fact, that's why the CSOs are also, echoing this concern. There have been recommendations that the DCEs who man these areas where Galamsey is taking place should be sacked, because it doesn't have to take NIMOS to come from Accra to come and crack down on illegal mining taking place in a particular area where there's a DC. Is it one that the minister, from your own engagement with him, would support sacking of these DCEs?
Over the weekend, the minister had a crunch meeting with all the heads of agencies and directors in the ministry, and he made a statement that this particular year is a decisive and defining year, and he, as sector minister, has the authority and the willpower to fire and sack anybody who is against the fight against, illegal mining. And so drawing from that, I want to believe that based on the investigations that we are conducting, if any name pops up, of course, as I speak to you, there are some allegations and there are certain people who have been fingered already, but of course, we are still carrying on with investigations. But if it is concluded that Kofi or Ama or Ajwa or whoever is involved, I can give the assurance to the Ghanaian people that the sector minister, Ama Kofi Boah, is not going to sleep on it at all. We take swift and immediate action, because, like I said, it's making the routine almost boring and, for the want of a better word, irrelevant. Because why would military men, task force deployed from the relevant security agencies, the state spends money on them, then just before they arrive, somebody for some parochial reason has already fed them the information, and then they'll flee. It's becoming one too many. So the sector minister is certainly going to act on it.
I do thank you for your time. Parkwesi Shandorf speaks for NIMOS and media relations with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join the New Day team tomorrow morning on TV3 and also the Sunrise 3FM 92.7 team. But from us here on Ghana Tonight, I want to thank you for your time and do have a good night. I'm Alfred Okansi.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint, superior durability, superior hiding.